So, hoo-hoo, I think we are live now. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful. This is very special for me. I'm sitting here with Caroline all the way from the States. And I know that there are many of you joining from all over the place. You have a chat on the right side, so you can write where you're from if you feel like. And also, yeah, there we go. Hi. So you can see wherever we are coming from. So yeah, we just had a little bit of sound problems here. I hope you can all hear us well now. Maybe it's good to give a little sign on that as well on the chat. You can hear us. Just give a little hello on the chat so that we know that you can hear us.
Great.
Yeah, good. So as you know, I love to interview women who are, who are not just inspiring women, but also role models when it comes to blossoming, to living the inner goddess, shining their purpose in life and all these kind of things. And that's also what I do with my online academy, Blossoming Women Online Academy. And in that I think this is this is like the 9th webinar we are doing so far. And I just I could just do this. I just love meeting with you, with, the women that have been here so far. It's just so inspiring. And I just, I could just do that actually. It's like, I have found it's like a new passion somehow to do this. And Caroline, you are, for me, yeah, it's like, this is a long time inspiration. We haven't met yet. This is the first time we are meeting tonight. But you are really, I remember, I don't know how many years ago, I just went into a room where Tantra was being taught. And there was this film of you around the sacred spot massage. Very beautifully I think it was in Maui or something like that in the 80s. And of course, then I ordered your book, and I was just seeing that joy and that passion and that engagement that you have, and also been having for over 3 decades of teaching. So you are also one of the pioneers, really, when it comes to bringing also Tantra into the West, and especially also bringing so much healing through the way I felt that you were giving this, especially the sacred spot massage and healing around women's sexuality, and also in the relationship, how you brought that as well, to use each other in relationship as each other's healers, but also bringing each other to shine. And to embrace our sexuality, our pleasure. So many things that you have been addressing throughout these 35 years of teaching, I think it is by now, or even more, maybe.
I do.
And you are also, what I also find inspiring about you is also that you are an ageless goddess. You really bring with you, and you have actually entered your 70s.
Yeah, halfway through almost.
Yeah, what?
74.
Woohoo! I mean, look at you. This ageless and shining, and what you're bringing to women also in your program, really addressing this, that there is no age, and that we can find pleasure no matter where we are in, and especially this whole judgment that there is when we grow older, and how you are breaking that, and just like, no, there is no way. So very inspiring. Very inspiring, that I find also. Yeah, so much more. So now I'm going to actually leave it to you. And my first question to you is actually looking back at your, life like this, and how you started in the 70s, 80s up to now. Would you like to just share a bit about this paths, this very rich path that has brought you to who you are today.
You know, I never thank you, Marya, for all your beautiful words and your respect and admiration and good memory of video and the 80s and Maui. That's when we filmed that. Actually, the early 90s, I think. But anyway, I never knew that I was a teacher. I never knew I would become one. I knew that I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And sometime around the age of my early 40s, I just said, you know, dear God, how am I here to serve? What is the purpose of my life? I don't know. It probably has something to do with yoga, because yoga was my home. Being on the yoga mat was for me like being in bed with a lover. It was like being in bed with a lover. It was being on the yoga mat with God. And so when I heard about Tantra yoga from my yoga teacher, who was Charles at the time, and that Tantra was an ancient subject taught in ancient India, and it was rebirthing in our modern times with the help of Margot Anand in France. Certainly want to give her credit for going all the way to Osho and bringing the early messages about Tantra back to the West. And then the yogis that all came over from India to upstate New York, who ended up being revered and then sleeping with their students after teaching brahmacharya, a celibacy to their students. That's when Charles and I started having this dialogue. Well, then, you know, we need to get sex onto the yoga mat, and we need to teach people and practice it ourselves, how to join our passion and our love and our connection to God all in one breath. And that became what Charles and I both refer to now as the beloved truth. And a girlfriend and I hugged in the waterfalls and down in Mexico at the yoga retreat. And we said, we're going to help Charles bring the beloved truth out to all women. That is our passion. And in the female moment of knowing, we embraced and hugged and giggled and cried, and off we went to do exactly that. Serve this work, serve women, serve the ideas that Charles presented about Tantra. And I would say not without question, because a man delivering information to women about their sexuality caused my mind to question everything that he would say or suggest or know about my sexuality, because he knew more about it than I did. And that annoyed me to no end. So in over the last 30 years, I have really pioneered, as you say. My great-grandparents were pioneers, crossed America in a covered wagon to farm in Iowa. And so I have that pioneering spirit. And I'm willing to go where others have not gone before. And I'm certainly really excited about going there as a woman, because I had to come out of a very traditional upbringing, a very 1950s. You're growing up to have children, to be a good housewife, and to serve your husband and his needs and his happiness. And that will be your task in life. And so it took a while for me to come out of that and come around to where I am now. And I still love serving, and I still love loving, and I love relationship. And I've been in male-female, female-female relationships, I would say all of my adult life, since I was 18. Marya, I just have never needed to be alone for longer than I needed it, you know, to reconnect with my deep self. The longest time was 4 years. After when I separated from Charles, and really was looking at how do I want to present Tantra and Tantra for women through my awareness and my consciousness and my voice. Not Margot's, not Charles's, but Caroline's. And what has evolved was more successful 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago in Costa Rica than it's ever been. Because people came there, women came there from Switzerland, from Germany, from France, from all over America to awaken their Shakti and through my work. And so it's obviously very effective, and I think it's landing now more than ever. Really landing with people like you putting the blossoming and the rising women out into the world. They're finding where they can go to get this experience of awakening Shakti. I'm going to turn it over to you because I can just go on, but I love the dialogue between us.
I was looking for my, because I turned my sound off, I was looking for my sound.
Okay,
when you, so this awakening Shakti movement, do you find, you said it's like this past retreat, like it was really every women were coming from all over the place. And do you find that I find this movement is growing, and I call it sometimes like a new women's movement. It's about this, to find, well, first of all, who you are truly, the inner goddess, awakening that, but also what I find is really the Shakti, like you mentioned, the Shakti awakening, so important. And this part of, for women to awaken their pleasure potential, basically. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about pleasure, because many times it is understood it's pleasure with someone else implied, to have pleasure. And I find it so important, the part where we find it in ourselves, and also the self-pleasuring and what brings you pleasure. Could you speak a bit about that, because you addressed that quite
yes, and I've always loved my own pleasure, and I have been responsible for my own pleasure. I have loved it when a partner would take responsibility with me to pleasure me, but I somehow I always knew that I needed to know how to do it best. I needed to be responsible for my own happiness, and my happiness depended on somewhat on the sexual part of me, the pleasure zone of my body, or any of them, all of them, to be alive and awake. And I became aware of that in all those years on the yoga mat, where I knew that every move I made was an orgasmic offering to myself and to that whom created me. So that every breath and every moment of lovemaking and every move on the yoga mat and it was all part of the same gratitude for life. And pleasure is something that I never knew how to talk about. It took me several years teaching with Charles before I could say the words vagina, clitoris, penis, and then the tantric terms as well. I just couldn't say, they would not come out of me in front of people. So I was a very shy Midwestern girl. And I obviously had to let that go because it wasn't serving me at all. And empowering women to come into their pleasure, to claim it, to own it, to speak about how they like it or how they don't like it in a way that a partner can hear, not in a blaming way, but in a sexy way, and in a turn-on way, in a informative, loving way. And really practice alone with myself so that I knew what the heck I was talking about. Right? Because if I couldn't tell him or her, because I said, well, I don't know. The first time someone asked me what did I want, way back in my 30s, I said, aren't you supposed to know? So it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted and how I wanted it and what what it all needed to be. And so I understand how women hold back with the sound of their voice, asking for what they want, saying it in plain English or plain French or plain any language. How do you want it? How slow? How fast? Show me. Because we're afraid often to not be desired if we tell the truth.
And also, because I also work extensively with that, and I also know so well to not dare to speak, to not be able to. I grew up in Sweden, so we kind of have a bit of more liberated approach towards sexuality in a certain way, and at the same time. At least I could say, like I could say vagina and I could say these words, but what I found with the conditioning, at least my conditioning was that, yeah, you do not tell what you like, because then the man, in this case, the man would feel, like kind of criticized in a way, even though it's not at all the intention. That is so sensitive. Also, what is I'd love to hear your take, like just first to find your voice, but also in terms with the relationships also.
Yes. Well, all of our egos are pretty sensitive, and the male ego around pleasuring a woman and his sexuality is extremely sensitive, and women often step right on that ego and smash it in their readiness to say, no, I didn't like that. When really the conversation needs to start with, oh, I love what you're doing. And could you add the other hand or some more tongue or a few words of admiration? If you could just add that, I would love that. And that most men will want to give you what you say you love and would love to have from them. Because a man truly is designed to pleasure a woman. He loves that. And the only reason we don't get pleasured is because we slam the door in their face before they get a chance to be appreciated. So that's been my experience, and I've done it the wrong way, and I've said it the right way, and I've definitely learned that saying it the right way with a build-up to what you are doing precedes what I would like you to then do. Does that make sense?
Totally, and I love that. It's just so. This is really my own experience as well. How to phrase. I've done all the other things as well, like not saying and then saying it the wrong way and demanding it and and crushing over the poor guy.
Right, like an order.
What did you say?
I forgot the delay. I said, I'm making it sound like an order, like their mother would tell them to clean their room.
Ooh. Exactly. Yeah. So, but what do you find is so important that we become empowered in our sexuality? Why is that important? I mean, you've already said things.
But thank you for asking that. I think one of the first things that it gives every woman is her self-confidence. And when a woman walks in a room with her self-confidence leading the way, she really doesn't need to have big breasts or tight clothing or the latest fashion. But if she's exuding her self-confidence because she knows how to speak her truth in a gentle and non-blame way, so communication skills, and she has claimed her birthright. And her birthright is to be a woman of pleasure. It's not difficult to have great pleasure and orgasmic pleasure throughout much of our life, though I think every woman faces a time when the orgasmic response sort of recedes, maybe during menopause, maybe post-menopause, and orgasm is not as easy. And that's when we really plummet in our self-confidence, because our bodies start to change, our bellies get bigger, our breasts start to sag more, and where is my libido? So my purpose now at this time in my life is to reach the women who have faced that lack of confidence, losing a lot of their libido, lacking confidence around their bodies and how their bodies look now that they're, quotes, older. Because I've had to overcome all that myself. And I've debated on whether it would just be safer to go be a good grandmother than to remain a tantric, sexual, alive, Shakti woman, which I could not do around my grandchildren or around my family at all, ever. They were ashamed to have a grandmother or a mother that taught sex, is the way they would put it. So I had to overcome all that also. That to them it was wrong. And I knew in my own heart of hearts, from Marya, from the words and the comments and the embraces of love from every woman I've taught, the deepest thank you. Thank you for being willing to talk to us this way, to teach us and show us and share with us how to become all that we are.
Very touching. How is your family doing with you now? Have they?
They're still going to church every Sunday, and they're good Catholic children, and they're in the teenage years, so it's even more dangerous to have someone like Grammy around. So I don't visit now.
You what?
I don't visit. I'm not invited to visit.
Oh wow!
It hurts. It hurts, but what takes its place are the numbers of women, whether they're teenagers or in their 20s, 30s, 40s, who are so grateful to be taught, to be educated. So they'll catch up in this time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also this becomes our new spiritual family, kind of, like when we find that, and just that's where you have your family right now, in a way, with
exactly. And it's very meaningful,
very rewarding, of course. So I'm going to continue into also this whole thing with spirituality. So we were talking about religion just now, and like being good Catholics, and I've had religion was not so much part of my upbringing, even though I know that in the collective it still transmits to us. And then I've had the occasion of meeting women with more Catholic upbringing, and that transmits in a slightly different way. But there is it just really pains me, sometimes to see how this religious stuff, even though we are not literally having to have to go church, it's still in this collective kind of conditioning. So when you meet these women and religion is kind of, how do you deal with that, actually?
Okay. I usually pose the question, would your God, have you be all that you can be? Or would your God want to limit you according to the priests or the teachings? Is that really God's teaching, or is it just how you're interpreting the teachings? And it's all your choice. If you want to be all that you can be, an alive, passionate, orgasmic woman in love with her pleasure, it's your choice. You don't have to do it. But have a deeper conversation with the divine within you, especially when you are having or feeling some pleasure. And remember who designed you. That's one way I deal with it. Another way I study this part of the culture through the two Marys, through the Mary Magdalene myth, reality, I don't know, and the Virgin Mother. And I know that the big life change for me happened when God became goddess also. That's when I became whole, when my love and my devotion to God became equal to the feminine face of God and the goddess. And then I really realized that I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I did hear the message from above to get on this path and teach it and talk about things and talk about your history and talk about what has pained you and talk about the lack of orgasms that you had and the lack and the success of them, because every woman needs to hear it. So I've been out there talking about when I was 26 years old, having had a complete hysterectomy because my ovaries were growing cysts on them and erupting and exploding inside me. And the doctors at that time said, well, you'll never have children. We might as well take everything out. And so at 26, I went into a forced menopause and was told I would never be orgasmic internally, which was true at that time. And it wasn't until my beloved Tantra teacher and husband and beloved Charles made it a daily practice to massage my sacred spot until I woke up, until I could feel. And it took months, almost many months, before I could start feeling inside anything close to what I could feel on the outside. Always being a clitoral pleasure girl. And then suddenly they were equal. And then many times it was even more pleasurable on the inside than on the outside. And now I could really speak with authority that we're never dead. We're never dead. We can wake up at any age with loving, intentional touch. Many times it was not about sex at all. It was about loving, intentional massage and touch. And even from friends and healers and people I trusted, women who looked like my mother, giving me sacred spot massage so that I could forgive my mother and take in the true love of the feminine, not through sex, but through my sexual center. Those experiences remain very, very, very strong. And I like to create workshops where women can have those experiences in a very safe container, because I know what it did for me. And as I referred to the last retreat in Costa Rica, 21 women from all over the world said, oh my goddess, we didn't know. But now we do. And we want more.
Yes, I'm very touched when you speak about this, because that's also my feeling is when women find out, you know, that this is possible. And we do what we call the vaginal massage or the yoni massages as well. And I teach women how to do it in my groups as well. And I also recently had a Shakti Delight, as I call that group. And it's like that evening when we do that, or afternoon, is like so touching that we can help each other as sisters and support each other in this way to awaken. And the same, like I had no idea, but also many are also really numb.
Yeah.
When it comes to the inner, at least the inner parts, you know, it's like,
yes.
There is a lot of talk, maybe you have, I don't know if you followed that, but there is a lot of, at least here in Europe, there is also a kind of a movement around the cervix and liberating the cervix. And I think that there is, the whole thing inside is like one big erectile tissue, but there is especially this cervix calling.
I'm hearing it more now also than ever before. I've had women who do private sessions with me ask me to find their cervix, and would I put a blessing there? Would I touch it? And and it's uneventful for the most part, but we take deep breaths and we we hold that pose for a few moments. And then I go back over all the things that women have told me that they loved about sex, for instance. And one woman's story really stood out about how much she loved a man who was very long in his lingam, who could reach with his lingam behind her cervix, or at least that's how it felt to her. And that's when she had her biggest experiences of ejaculating female amrita and orgasm that was bigger than ever. And I never have had that. But when other women tell you that's what it is for them, I don't argue or disagree. I just go, oh my God, wow. Wow. So it's all possible. And yeah, we're all one big pleasure center down there. Down there, exactly.
Down there. And if we link the down there to the up there, putting sexuality and spirituality in a relationship, which I feel, of course, that's what we are addressing tonight as well. But and what you do, would you like to speak a bit more about the link, why it is important actually to liberate this, and in that also awakening our spirituality, awakening our goddess, our essence. Mm-hmm. Just that link kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I do explain this a lot because women ask me a lot, why is it so important that I make sounds? And why is it so important that I take deep breaths? I can only come when I'm holding my breath. Many women have told me, I can't have an orgasm unless I'm not breathing at all. And I go, okay, well, I was there once upon a time too. I had to be so still and so concentrated on getting there that when I was learning to breathe more deeply and learning to relax all the muscles in my legs and in my pelvis in order to reach orgasm without trying so hard, I lost a lot of orgasms because I didn't know how to relax into them or use my powers of visualization to bring the pleasure that I was feeling up out of my genitals and up through the column of light that is my spine and into my brain. Now, I learned a lot of meditating techniques in yoga classes, but it was in the Tantra classes that and with a tantric lover who would remind me, honey, breathe what you're feeling down here. Breathe that up into your heart and into your brain. And on the sounds, let the neighbors hear you. And it took some encouragement, and that was very helpful. So I can only encourage the men to encourage the women. Don't order us to do it, and don't force us to do it, to make sounds and to breathe in such a way that we suddenly lose our ability to get to that orgasm or those orgasms, but just gently suggest as a gentle reminder. Until for women it becomes, we would only remember to breathe that energy up like we do in yoga class and into our brain. And when we release and let go, whether it's orgasmic or sort of orgasmic or not even at all, just do it anyway because it feels so good to open in the throat. And let the neighbors hear, or let the cows moo out in the field, or the donkeys bray. All the animals in the barnyard will start to sing along. And many of you live out in the country, and the animals love to make sounds when they're having pleasure. And we are animal too, becoming spirit. So that's my lesson on the importance of deep breathing, of consciously bringing the energy up from down in that pool of pleasure and up through the chakras and into the brain and out the eyes and out through sound is the ultimate in feeling all of it.
How do you, the throat? So I've been I had Anaya Sofia on one of the webinars, and her and she her webinar was very much about the relationship of the sacral chakra and the throat. So she was, because what, and that's also what we have been seeing, especially around women, but also men, is the silence here. So basically what I keep on doing is releasing this throat and releasing the sound. So I love how you really address that. I'm discovering in that there is that, it's like a cork here. You could, like, I call it the wine bottle cork, you know, yeah, like you have the wine bottle, you have all the delicious wine there, but you have like the cork to not let it flow out.
Yes.
Yeah, and when this cork loosens, that not only the energy goes here, but it also really brings it up and through. And I found also that the sound vibrations are, when a whole room is going with these sounds, it's for me, that's like, you know, so much energy that is.
Well, I would say that it's akin to a choir singing in a great cathedral.
Exactly, I was just going to say, like in a cathedral.
Yeah, when the women gather.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. One more thing I would like to, a little story. I had the privilege of meeting one of the great opera singers in the world in Carmel, California, after a Bach concert. And Will and I, my partner and I, were standing outside the little chapel, and there she was in the flesh, coming out of the performance. And we just said, "Oh, you're singing today." Took us there. And she said, "Well, it always takes me there. That's why I love to do it so much." And she said, "You know, for a singer like myself, this little clitoris in the throat vibrates so powerful when we sing that it's a full-on orgasmic experience here. And of course, the whole body is just vibrating with what's coming through her whole being." And I just thought that was, I said, "Thank you so much for being willing to tell us that." Because I felt it. And I totally felt it when you were singing. And when a woman or a man sings those amazing songs written for God from back in those other centuries, wow, that it's not just church music, right? And we play the Bach in the B minor for our lovemaking music. The Mass in B minor is our lovemaking music.
You're gonna post that that one later on. I'm gonna share it in the Blossoming Women group. The Bach music to make love to.
Yes, absolutely.
The Bach. What was it called? Bach what?
The Mass in B minor is the greatest piece of music ever produced by many critics, by Johann Sebastian Bach. The Mass in B minor.
Okay, we're gonna post that later.
Try it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move on. I love this. So our webinar title, it includes the glow from within,
yes,
and radiating joy. So glow from within, we of course already addressed parts of that. But what would you recommend women if they want to glow from within?
Got several techniques on that, but the one that has served me for the longest is the exercising of the PC muscles or Kegel muscles, and really making that a daily practice for 5 minutes. Really practicing holding and squeezing and the deep breath, and then releasing the breath and relaxing the muscles completely before the next deep breath. Deep breath in, squeeze, hold, squeeze, hold, squeeze, hold. And release completely, releasing the tension in the muscles and also the breath. And several rounds of practice starts to bring a lot of blood flow and energy into the genitals through your own musculature. So you don't have to read anything or look at a picture or go anywhere except down inside of yourself and play with a series of rounds of conscious breathing, deep breathing, and then relaxing and squeezing, tightening on the muscles, tighter, 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 and then relaxing completely with the breath, and hold the breath out for a second as the muscles are completely relaxed. So it's not really Kegel exercises as they're taught in a birthing class. These are exercises that were taught in ancient India several thousand years ago. And they were taught to the men also who were studying to be celibate monks. And their biggest issue was, what do I do with all this sexual energy that's sitting down there? And they were taught by the tantric priestesses to tighten and squeeze and tighten and squeeze and relax and hold, and then make a big old breath and bring that energy up and flood your brain and send it to God, who would be happy to have your sexual energy to play with. And it really works. It has worked for me many times when I was not with a partner, in my personal private time, taking a break from the computer and being a writer. I'm at the computer a lot. And reminding that inner glow that I own it, I can claim it, and I won't forget to practice it. And I'm visualizing at the same time the glow, the light, whatever color your own light wants to be, from luminescent to iridescent to silvery, goldish, pinkish, whatever your glow color is, love it, claim it, and paint your insides with it. So that's one way to help the women visualize that the pelvic bowl, that whole container of energy that is within us. Is that a good answer to your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful answer. And we do, reminds me of a meditation that I do where we are, I called it the golden light, something like womb breath. I can't remember exactly the name right now, but we are literally breathing in golden light through the yoni into the womb.
Yes.
Like that. We lie down, rotate our pelvis, and with that also the PC squeeze. So it reminds me, but I love how you added all, like, whatever kind of gold or glimmer or this, just to really literally bring it inside. That's what you do. That's what you were expecting, right? I mean,
yes. Yes. Just fill the container inside the pelvic bowl. And there's a teacher here in the U.S. Her name is not coming to my mind right now, but she teaches the art of feminine presence. And my partner, who I teach with, just took her advanced training. And so I just was in the workshop learning her way of teaching the art of feminine presence. And the teaching was spending time filling this container with your own light. And so it's almost like you're breathing it out and you're breathing it in. And that is the most powerful form of feminine presence, more powerful than projecting through the eyes or projecting like we sometimes do to let someone know we're there. But to just stand in the inner presence that you are and breathe it out and in. And that will be felt more powerfully. I liked it. I like that.
We also have, there are some women also here in the Netherlands where I live now who are doing this art of feminine presence teachings. I've had some of them also in my,
great.
In my training as well. Yeah. So it's, and it's quite, it's quite simple, but also very profound, you know, but just doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes very profound. Yeah. So the radiating joy part of your webinar, this is the second part of your webinar title. How do you go about that one? Finding it, of course, and then radiating this joy.
Radiating it. Well, we just spoke of filling the womb space with this presencing, with this divine light, if you will, this goddess light. And from there, radiating. It's not radiating sexual energy as much as it is radiating the fully alive, satisfied woman. That's the radiance that is attractive. And that's what the world wants to see more of. Unfortunately, certainly here in America, the tendency to look sexy, dress sexy from the time they're 12 years old. And Victoria's Secret underwear and lingerie and hot letters pink on their little 12-year-old butts. And the girls don't know what the heck they're saying. But you and I do. I mean, they're just advertising their sexuality that isn't ready to be accessed yet, even though it's awakening and it's big and it's juicy. And they don't know what it is, but they wear the cute clothes and they wear the advertising. And so I guess one of the biggest passions I have is reaching the boys and the girls younger before their parents can stop them, but reaching them with the truth that we, let's call us older women for lack of, we're enlightened women. It's not about older. We're enlightened and we know things that their mothers probably don't know. And so to radiate that knowingness, to radiate that confidence is very different than radiating, tits and ass, as the American male would have it, if I can speak that way on your program. And it's all over the news, it's all over the politicians, it's all over Hollywood. And it's so embarrassing to people like myself who live here that's the impression. I don't think the Europeans give that impression at all like the Americans do. And it's very, it's unfortunate because Americans are not radiating a high conscious state to the world. And yet there are many of us here, and we're all part of the tribe all over the world, who will hold that light and hold that commitment to the path of integrity, of spirituality joined to sexuality, and we will travel endlessly to the day we leave our bodies to spread the word. I know Anaya does, and I love women like her and so many of the women I get to play with who are dedicated. And now you, oh my God, now you, Marya, I'm so happy to make this connection, this divine marriage, if you will, of the goddess path.
Yeah, it touches me, this, well, when you say the goddess path and how we are placed in all these different parts of the world. I recently moved to the Netherlands because here there is just, the goddess is so strong here. I've been coming here the last 6 years when I did my first women's groups, and it's just been growing and growing and growing. Also with the men and the couple work that we do as well, but especially the women, it's just so touching. This, what I call, the goddess movement, or the awakening, blossoming women movement.
Yes.
And to find the young women in that, because in what you are sharing, we have also a lot of young women here that are pretty lost about their sexuality, but also the self-confidence part.
Yeah.
And I've just been a few times able to, invited to arenas where younger women are, and I just want to do more for those younger women, like you say, to reach them earlier. It's maybe not as sexualized as you were speaking about in the States, but there is still like they're just younger and younger into putting makeup and I don't know. It's yeah. So to reach that, how do you reach the younger women right now? What are you?
I'm not. My hands are tied. I can't. There's not much I can do. The law has determined what the age is that you could even touch a young woman, let alone teach her. And the parents are the ones in charge. And the mothers themselves are not enlightened or awakened. So they're terrified of their daughters and sons, especially their daughters getting pregnant, having sex, and not preparing them. So I just hold it as a vision. I hold that vision very, very strong. And every once in a while I can speak to another who also holds that vision, and that we hope in our lifetime. Parents will send the kids, or the kids will just say, hey, I want to go study with these women in the Netherlands or with Caroline in Costa Rica. I want to learn this stuff. And that has happened to me only once or twice in my long career, where a young girl of 14 told her mom and dad, who were friends of ours, I want to take Charles and Caroline's Tantra course so that I'm ready to lose my virginity consciously. And, she set the template for how to do it. She saved her virginity. She waited until she had studied. She was prepared when she chose the first boy to have sex with. And it really taught me what's possible. It's the child herself or himself that has gotten the message already that this is important. And if the information is in the household, if the parents are studying, if the parents are practicing conscious loving and letting the kids know what the sounds are from the bedroom, and that not to be afraid, but wait until we come out, and then we'll share our love with you. And then the kids go, oh, can I watch that favorite video game while you're in there? And they go, yeah, absolutely. Here's the headphones. So we've had couples that have really raised conscious kids because the parents needed to practice, and they made it fun for the kids, and the kids were not concerned. So pioneering is a slow path. It's like one step at a time, Marya, and then there's webinars like this, and more and more and more am I online broadcasting in the world. And I thank you so much for including me, because I know that this message reaches people in every country, women at home alone with their burqas over their face, watching and learning and breathing and wanting this for themselves.
Yeah, and I also I so appreciate that you are also sharing this, because it's coming from such a deep foundation of experience of really carrying it and owning it. And that's when I sit with you like this, it's and I suppose every woman feels that around you, that you just simply hold space for something so it's like knowing, and at the same time it takes safety, it takes courage, it takes a lot of guts to do what you are doing. So
Thank you.
And since we since we are on this because we have this blossoming women title on the thing, what do you what would you like to say to women who are attending this tonight? Like, you've said so much already. Is there something more that you feel oh, this, I wouldn't want to leave. There will be some time for questions for you listeners tonight. So, but just what do you feel would be, this piece I also really want to put in here.
Yeah, I have one. And it's the first piece that every woman listening has had to already she's had to grab a hold of the fact that she wants to wake up. She wants to know the truth. She wants to become a blossoming goddess. And it's that wanting it. It's that deep passion of wanting it that is the number one first step. Even if you don't have it yet, or even if you feel like I'm too young, or I'm too old, or it's too late. Or, I mean, we can all find excuses for why it hasn't happened yet. Perhaps the greatest love of our life, or the biggest pleasure of our life. But it's never too late. That's what I know. If you really want something, you will get it. And every woman on your program wants this enough to be listening, to be writing in, to be a part of it. And she'll tell her neighbor, and her neighbor will tell the gal at the grocery store. And women spread the good news like a new lipstick. It's smooth, it's creamy, it doesn't dry out your lips, and you'll love it. And before you know it, every woman in Europe has that lipstick. Or that something. That lube, that best lube ever. So I think this is the good news for women, Marya. This is really the good news. There's hope. Our mothers didn't have a lot of it. Some of our mothers are young enough to be a part of this movement. And some of us daughters have brought our mothers into it. And at any age, they're going, yeah. I mean, I've had women on my show that were 80 saying, I just want to have one great sexual experience before I die. Even if it's with my own fingers or my own vibrator or my own learning what you're teaching, Caroline, about the sacred spot and about the yoni massage. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to find it. And I never knew about it before. So that's what turns me on the most, is that every age, especially women who are in their 80s who go, I want this before it's too late. Before I leave my body, I can have pleasure. And I never had it during the 50 years of my marriage. Because a lot of those European marriages last a long time. And I want to tell you that it was in the Netherlands that the hippest group of people came and worked with me when I taught there. And they did sexual healing practices with someone they chose in the group, and they were not polyamorous, or, they'd never been with anyone else in their long, long marriages. They were just open to the new way and the new wave of consciousness. So I love the Netherlands, by the way.
When were you here? We want to bring you back. When were you here last time?
I had two students who had come over from Belgium and Holland to study with me at the Divine Feminine Institute back in Maui in 2004, 5, 6, around there. And then there's a teacher in Belgium who is a Taoist teacher. He's a beautiful man, Dirk Oljebrand, and his lovely wife. They took my trainings and they brought me to Europe for a summer program in a castle.
That fits you.
Oh, God. And I had a little dormer room looking over the moat with the swans swimming around. And it was classes all day and wine and socializing in the evening. It was the most wonderful opportunity to share this information with other like-minded Europeans who spoke English.
So, are you willing to come back?
Absolutely. I'm hungry. Oh. I'm hungry to come back. Europe, I've never had enough of it, and I so want more. It's like the woman who's in her 80s that wants to have orgasms. Yeah. I want more of Europe before I can't travel anymore or something.
Well, very good.
I'm moving to Panama City, by the way, so I'm going to be living out of the country for the first time.
Are you? How come?
Yeah. I want to live in a tropical climate that I can afford.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
It's a very hip city.
Yeah.
What?
And Panama City, you know, of all places. It's I've never.
It's a very hip city. And
Ah,
they're putting out lots of great invitations for Europeans and Americans who are over 65, who have an income with Social Security or, you know, an income, who would not be, who would have something to live on. And they're making it so inviting for us that both Will and I went to Panama City 4 times to see our lawyers, to go through immigration, to get visas. You know, we are now residents of the country of Panama.
okay.
Panama City, you could fly, and you could fly to Paris in 8 hours or something. 6, I don't know. It's quick.
Well, good. Then we know where we need to get you from.
Yeah, I can get there. I can really get there. I can take an Uber to the airport, and I'm in your homeland several hours later. So, thank you. I would love.
Yeah,
Okay.
would love to have you over here for sure. Okay, so I think that we are now opening our room for some questions. There are some comments here on the side. Midi has shared some things, but please, to you on the call, if you have any questions to Caroline, you can write them on the little chat box on the right side that some of you already have found. Yeah, we'll give some space for that. I'm just going to read the. Yeah, Midi's writing, very touched by your story of conscious kids, Caroline. It gives me inspiration to be proactive with my 8-year-old granddaughter, who I anticipate will be in touch with her own sexuality very young. Thank you. And Josette is also an oof sharing the same tear. Was already having tears with with an earlier
one
that chose to prepare herself, that chose her own teacher, to choose her own teacher in that. And then she writes, oh, the same tear for the 80-year-old that wanted to have just one big orgasm in her life. Yeah. Let's see. From which age? We have a question from Mariska. Thank you, Mariska. From which age can you have these woman groups? That I suppose she's talking about, that the woman groups that.
What's not like I'm leading? What age do the girls have to be? Probably 18 would have to, before that, they would just need permission from their mother or parents.
Yeah.
But I think 18. But I have never. I don't know. Actually, I know drinking age is 21, but I don't know what age they would have to be to come and study with me.
I remember I just have a really funny story with my son. He's 27 and he lives in New York, but he came, I think he was like 14 or 15, and he came and he said, just out of the blue, Mom, do you know any Tantra groups for teenagers? Wow. And I like, where did he, you know, like, of course, he comes from my breeding, but just that he came up with that question. And I think there are too few of them, for sure. Too few of them. There are not very much. Yeah.
The parents have to be the role models.
Yeah.
So that the parents are of age, the parents can go get this education, and the parents can practice at home.
Yeah.
And they can tell their kids what they're practicing.
Yeah. That's what you were sharing earlier also.
Mm-hmm.
So I have another question coming up from Ayla. I feel very masculine and a bit afraid of my feminine side. Are you willing to comment on that? Thank you.
Well, the comment I would make is you have a lot to look forward to come into balance. It's the masculine and feminine balance that really creates a wholeness to live life with. I wouldn't want to be more one than the other. So if you're feeling more masculine now, and actually there's a pretty masculine force in the world that a lot of women would rather align with than the feminine force, because the feminine force is still associated with pink and ruffles and girly stuff. And the word that Marya, of what she's doing, what I'm doing, is not, every mother does not know about this yet. And we hope they will, because the feminine is very powerful. And in fact, according to martial artists, it's the yin and the yang. So it's the receptive that makes a winning martial artist out there on the mat. It's not the punch, it's how you receive the energy. And so I love some of the understanding that I've gotten from the yin and the yang in Chinese and Taoist philosophy. So it's just that your yin hasn't caught up with your yang yet. And you have a lot to look forward to, Marya. I'm sorry. Thank you. About my own parents.
We have also a question from Oh, there is a drop. The voice is coming through. I used to not like to know about my own parents. So how can I introduce them in a nice okay?
Well, I probably, as many of my students have, started with a gift of one of my books, especially my first book, Tantra, The Art of Conscious Loving. It's actually been printed in 11 languages. It's available on Amazon if you guys in Europe can order on Amazon, Kindle. My first book is really the primer for the consciousness of what Tantra Yoga is. And parents or people of any age can read that with their kids. It's nothing that couldn't be discussed at the dinner table.
Yes, great.
You're welcome.
Tantra yoga.
Tantra is a yoga. It's one of the original limbs of yoga.
Exactly. So that's why people today they refer to Tantra or. Do you hear me? It's the sound.
Just going in and out a little bit. That's why I'm moving in.
No, so that was just my question. Because many people refer just to Tantra.
It's unfortunate because if Tantra doesn't have its yoga, it's just a new modern way to have sex with your partner or many partners. And that's all some people think it is. But Tantra was a yoga from the, oh my God, pre-BC. A beautiful education for its people in India, much as Taoism was a teaching in China. And it has resurfaced in these modern times. But I wouldn't ever call myself a Tantra teacher without the yoga. The yoga is the union. That's what yoga means, is union, right? So Tantra is about union in all the chakras with the divine as a practice during sex or during dinner or during a walk.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, still the sound. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm reading these just like you are.
No, it was fine. Now it's not better. So I will just bring it closer. If it works better.
Maybe you can go on.
Caroline, you can volume on your computer. Maybe that's
I can hear you just fine now.
Yeah, but you just lower it.
Lower my sound?
Yeah. If you lower your sound a bit.
I just did.
Yeah. Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you clearly.
Well, I think it's just something that happens in the, it's like going around. But if you can hear me better now, not really. But we will.
There hasn't been them.
It was not like that earlier. Yeah. So we will just see. Yeah. And if you lower just a tiny, Caroline?
Well, then I won't be able to hear you.
You won't hear me.
Yeah, you're clear now, but soft.
Reconnect. Oh yeah, now it's going. Try to reconnect.
Better.
No, I don't think so. I think so. It's okay for now.
Okay. It's hard to get this perfect. We're a long distance away. A long distance away.
But what I was saying, I connection that you make with Tantra and yoga, because it doesn't come out very.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that real clear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Excellent.
so let's have anything else right now from your side, on our participant side. There's not more coming up from you. We have a little time left.
I was going to share with you a way that women can meditate for a few minutes every day or before they go to sleep at night, who are dedicated to hooking up their sexual energy, their passionate energy, with their heart. Because that's where the cutoff usually happens. We can have sex with someone we don't love. And that's okay. It's fine. But we want to love them more, and we can love them more if we can love ourselves more and create that connection between our yonis and our sexual center and our heart. And that is simply to put our hands over, place a hand over your pubic mound and the other hand over your heart. And just lower your eyes and begin to breathe deeply with a little squeeze or two of those internal muscles. And then breathe that energy up to your heart. And on the exhale, broadcast the Shakti. Broadcast the Shakti clear across the ocean, into every country in Europe, into every United State, into every country of the world, and into every woman in every country. Taking your next breath and breathing your Shakti up to your heart. And on the exhalation, again, broadcasting as if you could blow the little dandelion in the fall out into the wind. And this conscious sexual energy that you carry, your life force, goes out to every woman in every country of the world who is still lost, who is still mistreated or abused or put down, or who thinks she is less than anyone else. And together, as conscious women, we bring all of our sisters together in the circle created right at this moment with Marya and your wonderful people in Europe. And all my friends here, all my students everywhere. We thank Goddess for showing us how to reach everyone. And coming back to the circle as I say farewell to Marya and this beautiful time together. We will have more. Let's affirm that right now. In person.
Want to have more.
I'll be there.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Caroline. I'm just gonna close your sound for a moment. So just up there, and you just press it.
Turn webcam off.
No, not webcam. Just sound.
Okay. Sound. Okay. Sound. Mute. Okay.
Just for a moment, then we will not have the echo. They're very, very powerful. Thank you so much, and Caroline, to share all your wisdom and your pioneering heart that has been doing so much and brought you to who you are today, and to feel you, to sense you has been just, I cannot even describe it. It's just like, wow, deep bow to you, sweetheart. Deep, deep bow. And I'm looking forward to meet you. I know it will happen. We will bring you over here, or maybe I come to Costa Rica. Something has to happen here. Thank you so, so much. This was very, very beautiful. And thank you all for coming here, spending time with us. I just want to share that we have this just this Facebook group for you to come in. I'm just posting it here now, where you can join a community of women traveling into blossoming womanhood, inspiring each other, and just sharing. I'm sharing posts there regularly. So we have a community of blossoming women on Facebook. So welcome to join us there. And the next thing also will be that we have our online academy opening the doors on January 9th. So beginning of the year. Looking very much forward to our second round of the online course. And before that, there will most surely be a surprise webinar with someone at the end of December. This was a true highlight. Thank you so much again, Caroline. And I can hardly not push on the button, you know, the red one where you have to kind of close the, I don't want to close this, but we have to. So blessings to you all. And you can put your sound on again if you want to say something at the end.
I want to say namaste and na mama stay.
Namaste. Oh, thank you so much.
Red button. Aloha.
Aloha.